Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to look at using sets and Venn diagrams to solve worded problems. Okay, so we have an example here where we are looking at travellers coming on different means of transport that we used on the previous day. We've got a whole lot of information here. We're looking at car, bus, train. So we start by putting together a Venn diagram. So we've got our three options here. We're going to put our car, a bus, and a train. Excuse my wonky looking circles. I might write in a different colour so we can clearly read what's inside. We know 8 used all three methods of transport. So we put 8 in the centre. 4 travelled by bus and car only. So bus and car only is 4. Now here's the tricky thing. 4 had travelled by bus and car only, so this is where I put that 4. If it had have said travelled by bus and car, that would have included this middle intersection. So looking at this, I can say 12 people travelled by bus and car, but only 4 people travelled by bus and car only. So 12 people travelled by bus and car, 4 people travelled by bus and car only. So just being very careful of that difference in phrasing when you're answering these questions. 2 had travelled by car and train only, so 2 in here. The number X who had travelled by train was only equal to the number who had travelled by train only. Train only is here, is X, was equal to the number who had travelled by bus and train only. So bus and train only was also X. Now when you're doing this, once you put in the values, I suggest you use other letters, other pronumerals for any other unknowns. When we're doing this, sometimes it might even end up that you have simultaneous equations to solve. And we've got some information here. We know that the other information we haven't used, 40 travellers altogether, 20 used a train, 33 used a bus. So what are we going to do to start with? Now the easiest case, and you won't actually need simultaneous equations for this one, but I'm just flagging it so you're aware it might come up for some questions when you're working on this exercise. So if I look within my train circle here, I know 20 travellers had used the train. So the total train, everything in the train circle, I've got 2 plus 8 is 10, plus x is 2x, needs to equal 20. So I get 2x equals 10 or x equals 5. Okay. Continuing on now, so that's my answer for part A, x equals 5. Part B, the number who travelled by bus only. So now I'm looking at the bus only circle. So in here I've got 4 plus 8 is 12, plus x plus z equals, bus only is 33. In this case I've already worked out 5, so I can substitute it straight back in. But you can see how sometimes I might end up with a series of equations with more than one unknown value and need to solve them simultaneously. 12 plus 5 is 17. So I subtract 17 from each side. So I'm going to get Z is 16. So 16 people travelled by bus only. I think hopefully I'm doing this correctly. Check my adding and subtracting. For part C, the number who had travelled by car only. Now I don't know what the car adds up to. That information isn't given anywhere, but I do know that we have 40 travellers altogether. So if I add everything inside my Venn diagram, I'm going to get to 40. So I have here 4 plus 8 plus 2, so that's 14. Plus I have 2x plus y plus z equals 40. Again, in this case, I know my values of x and z, So I don't need to use simultaneous equations, but you might later on. 14 plus 16 is 30 plus 10 is 40. So actually what we're finding here is that no people travelled by car only in these just written the wrong thing there. Should be 0. So we have no one has actually travelled by car only in this case from the people surveyed. So this is how we use Venn diagrams to solve problems. One more time, I've said it a few times, just be aware you might need to use simultaneous equations to start. My other suggestion when you're building your Venn diagram is start from the centre. The easiest way to do this is to start by putting something in our centre value there and our intersection of all three and working the way out. And one more time, just some, if I have here car, train, bus, if I was referring to people who travelled by car and bus, that would be this green section in there. So that green section is, it would say car and bus. If I wanted bus only, I'd be looking at this here. So this in here is what I would get if I was looking at bus and train only. I'd be looking just at this little section here. It wouldn't include the intersection. Car and bus does include the middle intersection. Bus and train only does not. Similarly, if they said people who travelled on a car, travelled in a car, would be this whole section. All of that would be, if it said travelled in a car, we would be looking at those 4 sections. If they say bus only, where's my little thing gone? Here it is. Sorry, I almost lost my marker. And if we said bus only, we'd be looking at that bit there. So when it says only, that's when you're looking at a smaller subsection. If it doesn't say the word only, you're looking at everything that possibly could be included. All right, so time for you to work on exercise 2H. As always, make sure you take note of any questions to ask me when you see me next. Thank you for watching.